Oh, you're using
Okay, guys, I'm going to get started. I know you guys didn't come here to get a lecture from me, but I am going to mention this is what happens when people wait to the last minute. I know you guys got requirements and you got to do it. But, you know, congratulations, you guys are inside. There's probably 24 people out there that I had to say sorry. You know, you got to take care of this stuff. Do not wait till the last minute, okay? If you have to do another one, which most of you I think just have to do one this first semester, in 2 weeks I do have a planetarium show, and you can use the planetarium shows for this exact same thing. So congratulations, you got to decide, but there comes a point where I just have to shut things down, okay? All right, so if people could silence these, I'd really appreciate it. All right, and so for the blue sheet, all you need to do tonight is to turn the sheet over and take the notes. Make sure you get names and things on the top part so that you have it when you do the write-ups. And again, just a reminder, don't wait to do these write-ups. Do them right away, okay? And to get the STEM Level 1 certificate, which I'm hoping all of you guys do, you do need to have your digital portfolio or your Google Sites little site thing where you're going to post the typed up version. If you have trouble writing this up, please come talk to me. On our STEM website, there are examples. Mr. Carpenter actually did one of these for you guys to show you exactly what the expectation is of writing these things up. And for STEM Level 1, when you complete it, you will get your certificate. Okay, I don't wait till the end of the year. So again, write a plan ahead, get stuff done. All right, just a couple other things. January 14th. So December we take a break. That's why there's no other STEM Cafe in December. We got finals and all that stuff. January 14th is our next STEM Cafe. It's Donnie Finley from the sheriff. He's a deputy sheriff, and he's a forensic supervisor, so we can talk about forensic science. Pretty cool. And then you guys can look at the flyers that are hopefully posted in classrooms for the next 3. So for this semester there were 3. For next semester there are 4, so there's a few extra. But again, don't wait till the last minute, please. Okay? My digital theater planetarium show in 2 weeks on November 19th is a pulled-out movie called Explore. A little bit about the history of science and exploring in space, talking about Newton and Kepler and things like that. That should be a fun activity. All right. So format tonight is we'll have our speaker. We'll have a short Q&A. Then we do have some. Tonight it's savory treats from culinary. I'll open that door. It's out on the table there. And you guys are more than welcome to partake in that. And there's some waters and decaf coffee if you're into that. And while you guys are doing that, you have an opportunity to talk to our speaker one-on-one if you have questions that you just want to individually answer. Okay? Welcome. I'm glad you guys are here. And so tonight's STEM Cafe is brought to you guys by our own Mr. Steve Carpenter. And I'm going to let him do the introductions.
So my name is Mr. Carpenter. I teach here at Pioneer High School. I also have the opportunity to teach part-time biology out at the junior college. And it's an honor tonight to be able to introduce Caprice Disbrow to you. And I want to share a little information about Caprice. She loves sharing her passion and curiosity to anyone who will listen. And her bachelor's degree in plant biology is from UC Davis. She has a master's in plant ecology from Sonoma State. And before working with undergraduates and learning how much she loved to teach, she worked as a professional biologist, botanist, and ecologist for Jacobs Engineering. So maybe she'll tell us a little bit about what that entailed. She's taught botany, introductory biology at Napa College and Santa Rosa Junior College, and she's now in a tenure track position, full-time position, at Santa Rosa JC. She also teaches non-majors courses, so courses for students who aren't going to major in science but want some opportunity to learn biology. And she curates the SRJC herbarium. So she's really involved with a lot of work on campus there that you can see. If you've been on campus, it's beautiful. And a lot of the work that Caprice and her colleagues have done is responsible for that. At first, when I met Caprice, I was just really struck by her enthusiasm and passion for learning. And she really does enjoy every aspect of teaching, not just the teaching and the content, but also understanding what it means to be a student and to struggle to understand new information. So she's really a model teacher, and she's been incredibly supportive for myself and other JC teachers who are still learning what it means to teach at that level. And of course, as teachers, we're always learning. It's one of the reasons teaching is so wonderful, because you get to learn in really, really fascinating ways throughout your entire life and career. I've had the opportunity to go on several field trips with Caprice and to see her passion for nature and for teaching come together in that space. And more personally, she loves to be with family and other loved ones and to share that love for being outside and for nature as well. So we're really honored to have you tonight and really grateful that you're here. So would you join me in welcoming Caprice Disbrow?
Thank you, Steve. What a lovely introduction. Thank you. And thanks you guys for coming. I'm really excited to be here to connect with Pioneer High. I'm going to tell you about native plants. Maybe you saw that on some of the flyers or on that A-frame out there. I'm going to tell you about native plants, what that is, why they're important, why we maybe should plant them, and I'll tell you about what we're doing on the junior college campus and how you guys might be able to get involved. And I was just hearing about level 2 and level 3 STEM certifications, which might fit nicely with what we're doing. I'm curious about that native garden I just went by. So we started this thing called the Campus Biodiversity Initiative. And before I tell you about that, we have to back up a little bit and think about biodiversity in an urban space like the junior college campus, or any college campus, any school campus, high school campus. And so I want to start out by explaining urban rewilding. This is a concept that is growing, a movement that is growing in momentum to plant more plants. Plants maybe have more structures for animals in urban spaces. And this is important. We see urban sprawl, we see wild spaces decreasing as we see more development. We see threats to wild spaces from pollution and climate change. And so, although it's really important to still protect wild spaces, obviously, something we can do now is make urban spaces, concrete jungles, cityscapes, support more wildlife. And so cities can be valuable habitat for not just plants, but all the animals that depend on them. Insects, reptiles, amphibians, small mammals, birds. And so we know that plants help cities. Plants improve cities. The more plants that we can plant in an urban landscape, we know that there are benefits. And here's a list with some of the references to some of the research that supports this claim. We know that when plants are in cities, we have better air quality, better water quality, improved nutrient cycling and oxygen production. We see carbon sequestration and storage. Have you heard of the urban heat island effect? How cities are warmer, are hotter. Concrete holds on to heat energy, and the more plants we have, the more we can decrease that. This can help human health and well-being and increase a sense of place and pride for a beautiful aesthetic, for a more lovely space. We have lots of evidence that plants improve cities. But remember that term that I mentioned at the very start that you might have saw in some of those, on the flyer on that apron up there, something about native plants. And so I want us to consider, does origin matter? When I say native plant, what I mean is plants that have evolved for millennia in that region. So take California, for example. A native California plant is one that was here millions of years ago and not only evolved in this location, small changes over time that made it very well suited to this environment. Not only that, it co-evolved with insects, pollinators, with animals that were maybe fruit or seed dispersers. So take a quick second to chat with your neighbor. Do you think, are native plants more helpful in urban spaces than non-native, and why? What do you think? Yeah.
I think yes. Some plants can because plants provide a
Okay. Just to read the room, curious about prior knowledge. If you think native plants are more helpful, I want you to just put a 1 right here. You can kind of hide it. This doesn't have to be very public. If you think it doesn't matter, if you think native plants might be just as good as non-native, put a 2 right here. And if you have no clue, totally apathetic, don't care, put a 0. I'm curious about that too. So a 1 if you think native plants are better or more helpful. 2 if you think it doesn't matter, and a 0. See, right here. Whoa. What do you guys think? Okay, thanks guys. This is really helpful for me to see. Some folks I talk to, and I just assume that they know about some of these things, or I assume that folks have thought about this before. And some folks haven't, and that's totally okay. That's one of the wonderful things about me coming out here and sharing this. And so there's some arguments out there that, I used the word biodiversity early on. Wouldn't we have more diversity if we had both native plants and non-native plants in our town, on our campus? Sure, that could technically be potentially more biodiversity. But I'm wondering, do native plants, are they better? Do they help more? And so through the lens of ecosystem services, very human-centric, how do plants help us perspective, which is kind of what that list of why plants help cities was. Through the lens of ecosystem services, both native and non-native plants provide ecosystem services. However, there's some literature that shows that non-native plants also contribute to some disservices. Non-native plants are shown to have a role with disease vectoring. A vector is something that maybe moves a disease around. Allergenicity, some of the pollens that we're really allergic to are not native to this region. Fire frequency, plants that haven't adapted to some of the fire regimes or periodic events in this region. And homogenization, which means to have like the sameness. Think of, maybe you're familiar with English ivy. When English ivy gets into somewhere, it takes over and all you see is English ivy. That's a homogeneous or a very same environment. this is kind of the opposite of biodiverse. So, okay, sure, these things aren't so great, but I have to admit, I'm a little less motivated by ecosystem services. I'm an ecologist and a botanist, and I'm a little less motivated by the human application. And that's okay. Some of us are motivated to make big changes in the community to help other people. That's great. But I also find motivation in knowledge for knowledge's sake, or nature for nature's sake. And so, as an ecologist, I'm also really excited about just species interactions. Which, native or non-native, support more animals, support more organisms. There's evidence that non-native species drive extinctions, or have throughout time. And I think this one is really powerful. But there's also evidence that non-native plants drive population declines, in birds and in insects. So I think you're maybe starting to catch on that there are some benefits to both, but there's also some big negatives or some cons, potentially, to non-native plants. If this hasn't convinced you, I have a little bit more data. This graph, and I'll walk you through what we're looking at here, is from a research paper, Tartaglia and Aronson, that was pretty recently published, which is a meta-analysis. Have you guys heard of that? Maybe not, that's okay. This group of folks took 165 other research projects and looked at them all in combination. And it's a really powerful way to understand something about something. These happen to be across 34 countries. And what we have here is, of those 165 papers, we have number of papers over here. And down here we have plant-animal interactions, ecosystem services, and also performance, like do those plants even do well in the urban environment? And for each of these clusters, we have this white bar that indicates that this many papers found that plant-animal interactions were improved when we were looking at native plants. Native plants supported more plant-animal interactions by a lot. You see that? I'm sure you see that. There's also, the next bar over is that a couple papers, maybe 15, maybe 18, found that there were more plant-animal interactions when non-natives were involved. The next one are the number of papers that found that the results were neutral. Native, non-native didn't really have one winner. And the striped bar is for mixed results, spotty. So I think you can see that the number of papers that found that native plants were beneficial is powerful. In the performance category here, they perform a little better than non-natives with some mixed results. So they're equivalent, they do just fine in urban spaces, just as well as non-natives. But this excites me. If you're interested in animals, if you are doing anything in that realm, they disaggregated that data so we can break it out by group. We've got the same pattern for examining the number of papers that found that natives versus non-natives supported different animals. Birds, bees, Lepidoptera are butterflies and moths. Arthropods and beetles, insects. And we've got spiders, mammals, and herpetophile like salamanders. The number of papers investigating this topic are fewer over here. You know what that tells me? you could go and do that research. That's a gap in the literature. This is the place where, if this is sort of interesting to you, there's more research needed potentially. Okay, so I hope that you could see with that evidence that planting native plants is really valuable. They support more wildlife. They provide lots of ecosystem functions, clean the air, clean the water. And they do just fine in urban conditions. Great. That's great. But what are we going to do? What can you and I do right now, given this information? Well, myself and a few folks at the Santa Rosa Junior College decided to do something about this. We've had a few new buildings built. We've had a few areas of campus that have been modified. And over, biologists and botanists like myself have asked to be involved in the plant selection and the garden design process. And we weren't finding avenues to help add any input. So we decided to take matters into our own hands. And we made this thing called the Campus Biodiversity Initiative. It's a collaboration between faculty, staff, students, and community partners. And we're hoping to understand, bring awareness to the value of urban ecology and the value of native plants. We want to know more about the species that are on campus or are not on campus. And we want to provide research and career development for students through independent projects, course-based learning, research, and stewardship. And all the while, we're hoping to build community, to get to know each other better, and to benefit from connecting to nature. This slide has a lot of words on it. This was my attempt at kind of trying to create a visual of what it is, like our goals, our aims. And it kind of shows the arms or some four of the main goals. However, this doesn't quite work because they all overlap. Every time we are creating an opportunity for a student, we're building community. And every time we are working on developing and cultivating an outdoor classroom, we are learning more about biodiversity in that space. On one of our volunteer work days, we found an arboreal salamander. By the way, all the photos were taken by myself or the other faculty co-coordinator, unless otherwise related, otherwise stated. We started this just a couple years ago, and we have a lot of partners, a lot of folks involved. Biology department, we get funding from a federal grant that's threatened. We have to work side by side with facilities because if we make changes to the gardens on campus, the folks that actually are responsible to take care of them, we need to work with them on that. But another thing that we are doing, that we're spending a lot of time on, something that we're focusing on, is partnering with the Native American Center, the Intertribal Student Union, the Native American Faculty and Staff Association, the Pomo Weaver Society, because part of what we're doing should include traditional ecological knowledge. There's more than one system of knowledge that can help us steward the land. And so we are incorporating ceremony in these steps. And you'll see at the end that we are building a new garden that is partially a basketry garden that the Pomo Weaver Society will be able to benefit from. And so at the start of every event that we do, we do our land acknowledgement. It's the least we can do, right? To acknowledge that the Santa Rosa campus was on the traditional territorial land of the Pomo people. And more than just acknowledge, we can honor it, walk the walk, by actually following through with learning how to be better stewards of the land we have. By incorporating knowledge from folks on and off campus who are interested in helping us. we can affirm Indigenous sovereignty and work to hold Santa Rosa Junior College more accountable to the needs of Native Indian and Indigenous peoples. We're hoping to actually, literally, really do this. And so 2 of our interns are Indigenous. One is actually Pomo, and her expertise is going to guide some of our culture stats. Very exciting stuff. So, really at the heart of everything that we're doing with these urban rewilding efforts is for students. And so we have internships that dual enrollment students would be eligible. We have course-based projects if you take one of those courses, and independent projects. Bio 85, it's still an enrolled course, so I think that's still technically a dual enrollment thing. And so when I say students, I don't just mean JC students, I mean all y'all. So if I try to modify that thing I made earlier, really it's like students first, and all these things happen as we are trying to do some of the things that we're doing. So I'm going to tell you about some of the projects that we've done so far. Maybe this will inspire you if you wanted to do more on this front. From 7 classes across the JC over multiple semesters. Introductory bio, ecology, bio for non-majors, introductory botany, field botany, majors like more advanced botany, horticulture. We've been able to integrate or work with teachers to do things, to implement projects in their course. Here we're seeing, under our grow lights, some domes and some seedlings of 2 native plants, Phacelia and Ranunculus. They're really small in this photo. But students are growing them in either peat, sphagnum moss, which peatlands are really threatened, and coconut coir, a potential alternative that could help protect harvesting of peat bogs. So nice, a little weave-in for conservation here. Students were growing these 2 different native plants, one that's a very spring plant and one that's a very late summer plant, and asking questions about would they do just as well in one or the other. What's exciting is that of the plants that survived and grew up, the next semester students took those plants and planted them outside, and some of them took some of those ranunculus and inoculated some with mycorrhizal with fungi, and some without the fungi, and looked at their performance. And so here we see Baker Hall. Baker Hall is this arch building you'll see in a lot of the photos on campus. And that photo was taken of this little spot right here. Those plants are now right there. And so through these research projects, students now have plants that they can walk by. They have made a lasting impact on campus and left a legacy as these little ranunculus continue to grow in that space and as future students maybe steward them. I hear a lot that students feel really proud to have made a change and to do something on campus. Maybe plants are less of your interest and maybe catching bees sounds like fun. Here we have students from one class catching bees for a mark and recapture study. This is a cool strategy where you gently net some bees, minimal harm to these little guys. You tap them gently with a little chalk marker. That will degrade over time, so not very invasive at all. So we have a little chalk marker and a little yellow dot on that little guy. And you let them loose, and then a little time passes, you go to capture again, and there's this little equation that you do to estimate how many bees might be in the area. Here we see a student who captured a photo of this marked bee. It's got a little blue-green dot right there. That was a chalk marker. Near Collinsia heterophylla, a really cute little annual, little small native plant, super cute. Most of these projects end up with poster presentations, either a little more informal, like mini posters in the classrooms with botany non-majors, folks who maybe were studying interior design or physics or politics, and they just thought taking a plant class would be fun. But then some students go on to present at our poster conference, and I heard that you guys have a poster conference and potentially end up creating posters somewhat like these. This is a really great opportunity, a nice chance to practice scientific communication. Something else we're doing is proposals. We're asking for ideas, either in our classes or from any of our partners, ideas about measuring biodiversity, monitoring species, or any kind of experiments that you're curious about. Some of these can be implemented by the next cohort of students, or can become an independent project. So if you're interested at all, you don't have to come in with a fully fleshed out idea. We've got some ideas on hand too that you could kind of look through and consider that might be fun to do. This is a nest for dark-eyed juncos, these little birds hopping around that have the males have a dark head. And this nest is like on the ground, but kind of around some of these grasses. They still make a nest, but it's literally on the ground. In our little annual garden bed, our brand new annual garden bed. Just such a cute little find to find a nest there. We also have paid internships. And we've been really grateful to have some interns who've gone on to do, to support us in our efforts, but then they present on independent projects as well. Justin and Jasmine in 2024, presenting on their projects. Justice looked at hummingbirds' behavior on campus. And then this year, Jane, Rami, Yana, and Johnny, this is Jen Palladini, my other co-coordinator, faculty member for this program. Crimson is another intern who worked on a connected arm project to this, looking at native bees. She and a few other interns looked at, they caught and identified, learned how to identify native bees. I know these words mean nothing to us, me neither. These are all bee names. But they looked at both on campus, SRJC is the blue, and also Pepperwood Preserve, a more natural, like a wild space. And we can see some patterns, right? Some overlapping, some only found in one space or the other. With this baseline data, if we add more native plants and do this again, maybe we'll find some of the ones that were only at Pepperwood. We might find them supported on campus in an urban space too. This serves as like baseline data that we can use to compare over time. This is fun. There's a lot going on here. Let me walk you through it. On this side, we have our plants, scientific names. Sorry about that. If I had more time, I would add some photos and some common names here. But here, like we have a sunflower, for example. So we have our plants on this side, and on this side we have our bees. And when you see a path cross, what we're seeing is that this bee was found on this plant. And this bee was also found on one of the other plants, the ones surveyed in low quantity. This bee was also found on these other plants down here. So this is just some really fun data. There's some programs where you can kind of put in the information and this is created. But a beautiful artistic visualization of the interactions that we found. This is on SRJC alone. So one of the most common bees found on SRJC was this cutie, Xylocopa. And the second most common was Osmia, this bright shimmery green native bee. And so a whole other topic I don't have time for, but did you know that honeybees are not the only pollinators out there, and in fact honeybees are European. Honeybees are not from this area. I introduced native plants. There's also native bees that are other than the honey. And they're really, really valuable in our environment. So that's a little bit about projects. Other ways that we are engaging with the community and making opportunities for students is with volunteer work days. That's my handwriting. That's my whiteboard I pull out. And on that day, we had some folks working with our facilities to work on some irrigation. That's a good practical skill. We were weeding an annual bed of annual flowers and learning what weeds, what plants we wanted to remove. Some folks were learning about sheet mulching and how to deal with a rhizomatous, non-native plant. We had some very physical work using axes or picks, really. So this was for students who had previously been trained on this topic, so they're kind of gaining some real skills, hands-on skills that maybe could help them with future interns. Some of these students are thinking about roles in land conservation and land stewardship. So these would be really, really great skills, but also just in your own life and in the backyard. These stewardship days are things that we'd be happy to open up to you all if you were thinking about coming. We hold them once a month, and we are modifying parts of campus, of course with permission from facilities, and we always offer donuts. Infinite number of donuts consumed, just to have a little sugar as we do this. A lot of great conversations. People from all across the campus come out, including faculty and staff, so this is a networking chance too, to maybe do some sheet mulching or weeding. We find tasks for all bodies, for all abilities. Maybe you are a photographer. We'd love for you to come out and take photos. That'd be wonderful. Some students are learning about the names of native plants or the names of weeds. Others are just out there connecting to nature, getting out of their head. Sometimes this focusing on pulling weeds can be a moment to be very mindful and not thinking about the future or the past, which can be really exhausting. So this can get you in the here and now with other people in real time can be really valuable for our mental health. This was a space that had some shrubs, some non-native shrubs that we got permission to remove. And here's the before and there's the after with a bunch of annual flowers. Flowers that are hard for facilities to take care of because they can, without some tending, they can get really messy. Unlike a shrub that's just kind of always there and be permanent. These are kind of growing and dying, growing and dying. We're really, really thrilled to have this annual plant garden. It's just really fun and beautiful and changes over time. Another space we're working on is all this ivy. I mentioned English ivy before. And there's this low spot. We removed all that ivy with our work days and with independent projects. Next, we need to remove this concrete lip here, and then we have a low spot where we're going to make a bioswale, which is kind of like a wet space where plants that that thrive in a more moist environment. So we'll have very different plants in that space. Cade from my botany class last spring said, something that I had not expected from this experience was the enjoyment. I've done a fair amount of gardening, and it is often grueling work. Today, however, I was surrounded by friends and people in good spirits and all motivated towards the same goal. It was generally refreshing, and I would happily do it again. This, by the way, is the caterpillar for the pipevine swallowtail, beautiful blue and orange butterfly that's only found on this native plant it's been munching, California pipevine. So that was a really fun find that day. And then Jose, another one of my students, wrote, it was great to see the direct impact of our work, and I left with a sense of accomplishment knowing that we were contributing to the health of the campus environment. I'm excited to stay involved and keep learning through these types of experiences. What's really exciting is that, so we're working on, while we're doing all of this, we're developing the space to be a living lab and more outdoor classroom. I don't know about you, but I love learning outside rather than, there's a time and a space for inside, like right now, obviously. But I find outdoors to be really powerful, hands-on, to be really powerful, experiential learning, to really encode it into my brain. And we are really, really excited to take this step further. You see this huge mulched flat area? There was once a building there, and they removed it. They covered it with mulch and said, we're all done, that's what it is, that's that. We applied for a grant and were awarded some money to build a new garden where this 20,000 square foot, kind of a big area, that will be both a pollinator garden and a basketry garden. I mentioned earlier, working in collaboration with Pomo Weaver Society to make sure there's the basketry plants that they would like. They'll help tend and perhaps be able to harvest. We are going to host not only our stewardship volunteer days, but some workshops related to gardening for biodiversity, basketry with Silver Galletto from the Pomo Weaver Society, and we want to do a third one on creativity and mental health. Because there's no doubt about it that nature and creativity go hand in hand. We are going to create signs that will help folks learn as they just walk through this space, kind of learn what they're looking at and why it's important. And we're, like I said a few times, working with facilities to make this happen. And so here they are installing irrigation for us in this space. It's a huge space. We're really excited to start a garden there. There's so much potential for long-term monitoring plots, different habitat types. There's a lot that we could do with this. Those signs I just mentioned, we're hoping that they'll link to a website so that way we can kind of have a dynamic space where we can highlight student work. Students making art about some of these organisms or plants, students writing poems or literature or just a plant profile and details about the plant. We have an alumnus, a student who's now at Santa Cruz working on this, but if any of you guys are know how to do some of this, that would be so cool if you were looking for a way to get involved. Where are we gonna get all those plants from? Good question. Luckily, out at Schoen Farm, SRJC's farm space, I don't know if you know that, we have a working functional farm where a lot of natural resource management, like winemaking, soils classes happen out there, how to do agriculture. And so we've got faculty members and an intern out there growing tons of plants for us. These plants are going to go in that new garden. Oh my gosh, we're like, this is so exciting. And honestly, yeah, 100% of the plants from that new garden will come from Schoen, but already they've been growing plants, giving us plants. Jacques Cousteau said, we only protect what we love, we only love what we understand, and we only understand what we are taught. And like I said, I think experiential learning, hands-on learning, getting outside is such a powerful way to learn. This flower turned out so far to be one of the best floral hosts on campus. Single leaf onion. We've seen tons of different things on this one. It's a bulb and great plant to consider if you wanted to make a change in your yard. Single leaf onion. Some of our goals. We want to understand more about what's happening on campus. We want to get some baseline data and see if it changes over time. Are we making a difference? We'd love to compare more native and non-native spaces and utilize more technology and databases. We are excited about plots in that new garden and maybe coverboards. Have you guys ever heard of a coverboard? I see just a couple hands, couple nods. A piece of wood that's laid down that critters will come under for like a nice cozy spot or protection in the home. And occasionally you can go pull that up and assess who's there. By doing that, we could have an idea of maybe some of the snakes or reptiles or salamanders, perhaps. We don't have too much wetness, too many like creeks on campus or anything, but we could have an idea of some of the other organisms on campus. This hasn't been done yet. I'm excited to get that one going. We want to do more with art. We want to do more with literature and psychology because it's so connected. If these are areas you're interested in, there's a way for that to connect with biology and ecology and urban rewilding too. Crimson, the gal who I showed earlier, you might recall, made these beautiful paintings, drawing paintings. This could be independent projects. These are things that we want to highlight as we think about like highlighting student work, student projects. I'm partnering with the Virtual Field, a website that hosts videos. Some are ecosystem exploration videos, like for spaces that maybe you can't travel to. You can watch those videos and get introduced to a new landscape. The Virtual Field is interested in expanding to urban spaces and highlighting urban ecology. And they're excited to track every solstice and equinox to take a 3-minute 360 video, audio to hear what the noises are of the space over time. And so here's the camera they lended me, and I'm in that mulched area getting our first 3-minute 360 video up like from ground zero. There's nothing there yet. And then maybe the next one will have some plants in the ground, and over a few years we'll see what this becomes. So I'm excited to be here. I want advice from any of you who are experts, you students as well. I am stoked to maybe connect with you if this is something that you might be interested in. And I'm also excited to network for finding opportunities for SRJC students and for you guys beyond any of this. So I'm thrilled to be here to tell you about why native plants are awesome and to tell you about what we're doing for JC. I'd love to talk with you more if you want anything afterward. Really excited. Thank you guys so much.
Okay guys, let's do a quick Q&A and then we'll break for snack. Don't anybody leave because I do have one thing I need to tell you guys before you leave here that you need to do. So any global questions people would like to ask?
I was wondering why the big garden, the big formation and the basket garden looks like that, like specifically like kind of like an intersection walkway. Like,
oh, the image with the greenery or the green.
yeah, that was,
This one.
because it's split up into 4 quadrants.
Yeah. This huge mulch area. There's a parking lot here. We have a new STEM building, and here's where I'm at over in this building. A lot of people just walk through this space, so we're imagining that we're going to have pathways. And as we were thinking about irrigation, we also needed to think about like quadrants for different valves for different lines of water. But that's not set in stone. And if you're into garden design, I'd love your input. Yeah.
When do you post the lectures and how
Ah. Once a month, it's a Friday, 9 to 11, typically. So I don't know if that's tricky for you guys if you have Friday, you probably have Friday classes. But if there's interest, I'm sure I could talk to Jen and I could maybe make a Saturday. Yeah?
I was also kind of interested in the cover board to be around the campuses. Like, is it more than just a plank of wood that you build things?
It can literally be plywood, but corrugated metal. If you've ever been cleaning up near a shed and you pull up pull up a rock, things are under there. And so we can use these in a systematic way to count and estimate but also as a more casual way just to see maybe who's going under there. We'd have to do it strategically in places where just folks won't be messing with them. So they kind of have to be tucked into kind of hidden corners and well labeled. Otherwise, if people are just messing with them, it won't work. So we have to think through it a bit. You could do that in your yard, put down a piece of wood and see who comes. Yeah.
Does your group have an Instagram page or a website?
Not yet. I know,
Y'all
not
need to make
yet.
one.
I have to say, I have such a small online presence, basically negligent. But we have a website and we have a blog on the website. That's where we're at. We could probably use like a social media intern kind of thing.
Sounds like a student project.
Yep.
Last question? All right, thank you again. Just a reminder that I do this. You know, STEM level 1, STEM level 2, STEM level 3, you guys can all seek out and develop your own projects. And when I look at this, I look at STEM level 2 projects all day long. You just have to connect with people in the know and see what you can do and work with your student or staff advisor if you're interested in stuff like this and come up with a project. And remember, when you are applying to colleges and or scholarships, they love that you are actively involved in something like this. Experiential, you're learning something, you're adding something to the community, and they love that all day long. It separates you from a number on an application of somebody who has the same grades as you and you who have done some work like this. So, okay. Before you leave today, we have a little safety valve here, and thank you all for being here. I hope you enjoyed it. And your teachers know this, they may have mentioned, I have to stamp your blue paper. If you don't have the stamp on your blue paper, your teacher will not accept that you were here. The other thing that I do want to mention, that if you need to take some more notes, we are videotaping this, and this will be, Ms. Breslin will be getting it on our website usually within the next 3 or 4 days. And so you can go back and re-watch this and touch up your notes and help your write-ups. And again, please do the write-ups. So I'm going to sit here in the chair, and so if you can give me your clipboard, just put it in front of me, put the note side up that you took the notes, and I'm just going to put my stamp on it. We have some nice refreshments out there. You're more than welcome to. Thanks for coming. Please make sure I get my pencils, my clipboards back. And if you want to talk with some local questions here, please do. We'll figure it out.
You're 6 foot tall with a